Today, in current events from a Christian perspective, Disney releases a new animated movie trailer, and unsurprisingly, it's about rebelling against God and against fathers and against the patriarchy. And a girl takes matters into her own hands and throws caution to every warning sign, resulting in a weird chaos land with animated stars and giant chickens. It looks just great. Meanwhile, back in reality, a German homeschooling family is being deported after being here in America for decades, and at the same time, the southern border is overrun with military-age men, so that's nice. All this and more today. I'm Matt Odegaard, and this is Church Public. Welcome back to Church Public. I am your host, Matt, as always, and I really appreciate you stopping by. If you're listening on audio, thank you so much. And if you are listening and watching on video, hopefully you are. There's a couple things. I get dinged every time I play a Disney clip, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen. May have a couple of versions of this that come out with and without the Disney clip, but we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, if this is helpful to you in any way, hit the like, subscribe. You know how to do all the things. This is current events from a Christian perspective because I want to help you live out your faith in real life, which is more and more a tricky place to do. It's just really hard to really believe what you believe and to go out of your house and do that. And the culture says, hey, you're not supposed to do that. The culture says you can only have your faith in your little box, in your little house, in your little church. You're not allowed to have faith wherever you go. And the first story, I think, illustrates that to some degree. That's why we look at current events from a Christian perspective, because these current events help us give examples of certain things that can happen in real life so that we know how we're going to live. Because if you don't know now, if you don't take a firm stance now, when these things happen to your friends or your family or you may not know what to do. You may not know how to live your life. And really, the way, to move away from Bible for a second, if you don't believe in the Bible, if you don't believe in God, if you move into like Aristotle or something like that, one of the earlier philosophers, they talk about things like practicing courage, practicing your habits, and the way you practice your habits then leads you to do better at the habits in the future. In other words, you do small things and you do those well, then you can do the bigger things when they come. And of course, going back to the Bible, that's a very biblical adventure as well. Just take, for instance, the story of David, right? David fighting Goliath is an incredible and extreme story. But at the same time, he had practiced fighting lions and all kinds of other things, protecting his sheep. So by the time he got to Goliath, he was not unpracticed in certain things. That's a story for another day. Didn't really mean to bring that one up. But it's important to know that you need to practice these little acts of courage so that you can do the big acts of courage when they come up. All right, to the news. We have this beautiful, lovely German family. Again, if you are just listening, showing a picture of the family. This family is a German family, and they are about to be deported from America functionally because they want to homeschool. They came to America because they wanted to homeschool from Germany, and they are going to be deported now from America back to Germany because of reasons. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of illegal immigrants cross over the border just about every day, and most of them are males of military age, which is a little bit suspect. But because this particular German family, again, as you see them on the screen, a beautiful, lovely German family, because they're conservative and white and evangelical and homeschoolers, they have to be deported. Apparently. There are other points to this story, but in real life, why do some people get to come in? And if you are Venezuelan, if you are of certain origins from certain places, this is a beautiful picture of diversity. That's what we're told. If you're a dreamer, it's a beautiful picture of diversity to let you stay indefinitely. But because these Germans are Germans and white and European and married and Christians and homeschoolers, no, they've got to go. Via the New York Post, I was looking at this story, this New York Post article, German family who sought asylum in U.S. for homeschooling faces deportation. This German family unsuccessfully fought for asylum to homeschool their kids in the United States. They're facing deportation despite living in Tennessee for 15 years, with the government's blessing initially. In 2014, the Obama administration's Department of Homeland Security granted, quote, deferred action status to 7 members of this family who pulled their kids from Germany's public school system over concerns that it was warping their children's personalities and attacked quote-unquote family values. Does this sound familiar to you? Yet, reading from the article, earlier this month, an immigration and customs enforcement officer told the family they had 4 weeks, that's it, 4 weeks to apply for German passports ahead of their deportation. They are being sent back home with zero explanation for this sudden expulsion. Tennessee immigration judge granted the family asylum in 2010, but the decision was overturned, and a 3-judge panel of the 6th Court of Appeals unanimously ruled against them, with Judge Jeffrey Sutton writing, "The Romakis failed to prove how German authorities enforcing the school attendance law, quote, amounts to persecution," end quote. And there it is. I mean, this really is it. I'm not going to read much more of this story, but what we need to understand is being a family, mother and father and children, being white, choosing to homeschool, even in this case, I believe being Christian, this is not, quote unquote, approved persecution. It doesn't look like persecution for the state to say, no, you can't do those things. You can't educate your kids on your own. That's ridiculous. Why would we let you educate your kids? Then your kids will learn things that are not approved, which apparently is not exactly what the state said, but kind of. Here's another quote from the article. As millions of illegal immigrants flood across our southern border and disappear into our country, your immigration authorities have chosen to punish a family who has built their lives in Tennessee within the legal parameters of our immigration system. And this was written by Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican in Tennessee, in a letter to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. No update as of yet if they are really going, but it appears that they are. Meanwhile, going to California, sadly, if you didn't know, if you missed this news, California Senator Dianne Feinstein has passed away, and her replacement has been chosen. Of course, this replacement, however, is a self-professed, this is what she says, black lesbian who doesn't even live in California. But why should you need to live in the state you represent if you represent the state of being that needs representing? I may have made that last part up, but it seems to be true. So before California Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein died, Governor Gavin Newsom said he was going to replace Feinstein with a black woman. This is what he said. Because per the Biden model with the vice president and the Supreme Court of the United States, apparently that is what matters. Newsom said in this tweet, let's see, we got this right here. I'm proud to announce California's new United States Senator LaFonza Butler, as we mourn the enormous loss of Senator Feinstein, the very freedoms she fought for, reproductive freedom, equal protection, and safety from gun violence, have never been under greater assault. I actually have more of it written down here. We'll read that in just a moment, but that was the beginning of what Governor Newsom had said, and he went on to say, LaFonza has spent her entire career fighting for women and girls and has been a fierce advocate for working people. He continued, she will make history, becoming the first black lesbian to openly serve in the United States Senate. From her time as president of Emily's List to leading the state's largest labor union, she has always stood up for what is right and has led with her heart and her values. He continues, I have no doubt she will carry the baton left by Senator Feinstein, continuing to break glass ceilings in a fight for all Californians in Washington. From her home in Maryland. Well, I added that part, but it is actually true because she lives in Maryland, because it doesn't seem to matter that she's representing California as a senator because she lives in Maryland. But, you know, I guess who cares at this point? I did read that technically Butler did live in California for a certain time. She was not born in California. She was born in Mississippi. She was involved in union activism. She did move to California at the age of 30 in 2009, and she worked with the union SEIU, representing long-term care workers. Then she was the regent of the University of California system, appointed by Governor Jerry Brown at the time, and also apparently worked on Kamala's presidential campaign, which is nice. However, in 2021, she went back to be the leader of Emily's List into Maryland. Emily's List is an organization, ostensibly, from what I understand, designed solely to elect far-left pro-abortion female candidates. She and her female partner moved to Maryland outside D.C. and registered to vote there. And here is her Twitter bio. Which says, if you don't see it right down there, she's located in Maryland, which is nice for a California senator. But hey, who's counting? Let's continue on in California because I saw this story and man, it's like art imitating life, imitating art. I don't really even know where to file this, but the thing that I will, listen, I've talked about a lot of different things over the years at this point. I've seen a lot of things coming. I have this station where I talk about a bunch of things. I talk to other people in certain arenas, and I will tell you this one I did not see coming. I lived in California. I mean, just in spite of another person who just got elected to Senate in California, I actually did. I was born in California. I grew up in California. But anyway, I don't want to be a senator from California, but I'm just saying. However, this one, I mean, I'm telling you, I did not see this coming. Now, for those that know, and for those, I'm not a really sportsy person, and that's fine. However, I'm very familiar with the Oakland Raiders. Anybody familiar with the Oakland Raiders, right? So we've got, the Oakland Raiders. They're, big in the sports. And if you are not familiar, right, I'm just showing a little picture of the Raiders here because, we got to make sure we know what we're talking about. And they're the Raiders because somehow related to football is pirates. Again, I couldn't tell you exactly why that is, but if you don't know their logo, which I'm showing you on the screen, right, it's a guy in a football helmet, but he's got an eye patch and the pirate swords. I mean, piratey, right? There's a lot of piratey stuff going on. And last time, we talked about the Pirate Bible. If you did not hear me reading the Pirate Bible, you really should pause this right now, go back in time to a previous episode and listen to the Pirate Bible because, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Apparently, in California, in Oakland, there are now pirates. Yes, this is not even a joke, people. This is really what's going on. According to the Republic Sentinel, California marinas have a worsening pirate problem is the name of this article. I just can't. But I saw this and I said, man, we have got to talk about the pirate problem in California. It's like, I was going to play you some Pirates of the Caribbean. I was going to play some other stuff. But again, I thought on the social medias, I'd probably get in trouble for posting those songs and everything. So just either imagine the Pirates of the Caribbean songs or go and listen to the Pirates of the Caribbean songs. Like it's just great. You need to be playing that in your head while you're listening to this because this is where we are again in California. We've gone back in time 200, 300 years. They're just swashbuckling. There are pirates in the Oakland Marina. Again, a real story. Reading from the article here. According to local news outlets, the thieves are piloting small boats under the cover of night to reach larger vessels, boarding them and moving them elsewhere. Here's another article. Boat owners say lawlessness near estuary is becoming a crisis. And it says, the pirates are spiraling out of control. That's what we're looking at here. I love this story. It's terrifying. Continue from the article, the city of Oakland, California, which has endured increased rates of violent crime and property theft over the past 3 years. I'm going to interject here due to the fact that they basically outlawed most of the police because they said police are bad. ACAB, all cops are bad. I'm gonna substitute in there, which is something you heard in the BLM riots and all this other thing. So they got rid of police, or they said to police, you're not actually allowed to do policing. So now California has created a pirate problem where there are legit pirates roaming the bays, stealing people's boats and things. Boy. All right, let's read more from this article. The thieves are operating small boats to steal vessels from the marina, sell off parts, a phenomenon local officials are calling piracy. There it is. Stephen Young, owner of a 40-foot boat normally docked in Oakland Marina, told CBS San Francisco his yacht was stolen and found a few days later with people aboard. Young called the police, who said they could not take action without a police report. And essentially, they did nothing. Young said the police never came. The boat was only found when he called the insurance company and the insurance company found them. Young said at that point, his boat was destroyed by the time it was recovered. Quote, what they did to the boat was unbelievable. Normally, you'd expect them to take the dinghy, take your liquor, stuff like that. But they took the fishing poles, the fighting chairs, the barbecue pits, and everything they didn't take, they just destroyed. End quote. Apparently, they also stole the GPS system, handguns, ammunition, leaving behind hypodermic needles and destroying the interior. Great. So not only are they pirates, but they are dirty pirates. Young's boat was the third attacked in the Bay Area in 1 week. 1 week, people. Robberies have increased by 20% since last year, according to the statistics from the Oakland Police Department. Here's another quote. A few days later, someone in the marina had to defend themselves with guns against the pirate. Here we go. And that's where we are right now. Everybody there has a gun or a knife or a sword or something to protect themselves. End quote. I'm just pausing there again. I'll even put the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, back up because this logo has the swords. I mean, I'm telling you, people, this is the world we're in now. Now we have pirates roaming the seas again. I don't know what to tell you, people, but this is where we are. In addition, and this is kind of a funny twist ending, the pirate phenomenon comes after the Oakland NAACP, people that initially were calling to defund the police, tried to reverse their efforts due to rising crime rates in the northern area of California there. They said, quote, murders, shootings, violent armed robberies, home invasions, car break-ins, sideshows, highway shootouts, and I would add to it, pirates, have become a pervasive feature of life in Oakland, said NAACP President Cynthia Adams in a letter to the city. It's not like we didn't say this was expected. I mean, when you get rid of law and order, when you get rid of the police, when you get rid of the people who maintain the order and control in a civilization, what do you expect is going to happen? We end up with literal pirates roaming California, of all places. And I know you'll say, well, yeah, it's California. Yeah, I get that. But we should not have pirates. It should be very easy to get rid of pirates. Just throwing that out there. All right, we've talked about pirates enough. Let's move on to Disney. Let's stay in California and move on to Disney. All right, so this is the part where I don't know what social media is going to do or not do. So I'll try to cut this in a couple of different ways and do it with and without part of this trailer for the new movie Wish. So there's this new movie Wish from Disney. Here's the advertisement. It says, "Be careful what you wish for." At the top of this ad is what I found out actually the king / father figure, which also turns out to be the God figure because he's the only one who can grant wishes. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Also, there's a star. It's a little like emoji star guy. And then the girl, Asha, in the middle, and some kind of little horse donkey thing. I don't actually know what it is, but then it gets a wish and learns how to talk. Anyway, here's the thing. We're going to talk about this because I know I've talked too much about Disney already, and we've spent way too much time on Disney, but what you have to know is they continue to put out animated things aimed directly at children to teach children lessons. And the animated shows for all time have been designed to teach children lessons. This is just the reality of it. You can go back and listen to the whole Snow White episode that I did where we talked about why the original story of Snow White is actually a great moral tale, in addition to Beauty and the Beast. We talked about a bunch of other ones there. And even you can extend to it a bunch of spiritual examples and why it's a really good tale. Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, they both have a father figure that is a God type figure. They both have a son of the king figure who saves them and provides salvation. Like in Sleeping Beauty's case, the son of the king sacrifices himself. There's thorns. He fights through it, provides salvation not only for the princess, but also for the whole kingdom. I mean, there's some great themes in some of these old fairy tales, and rightly so, intentionally so. And because there are great themes in fairy tales, because the themes of fairy tales are morality stories, we have to look at the new ones coming out and go, well, what are we saying about morality in this one? And I know this is like a deep cut, and you're like, Matt, just give it up. Like, we don't care. We just want to watch an animated movie. And that's fine, but it is important for you to think about, at least at some level, because whether or not you put it in your brain and think really deeply about it, it's going to affect how you view the world, because that's what this medium does. The medium of art really gets into your head. It gets into your heart. It's sometimes beautiful artwork. And the way that works is you may or may not even realize, then you act out some of the examples. And I'll give you a really scary one. What is the song from Frozen? Yeah, you all know it. I'm not going to sing it. I'm not even going to say the words. You're already singing it. And I'm kind of sorry for telling you that. But at the same time, This is how insidious these little things just get in and stay in forever and ever. Anyway, this is a new movie coming out. It's called Wish. We also want to point out, I want to point out that Bob Iger, the CEO that just came back on, there was a whole on and off CEO thing. We talked all about that. He said, we don't want to engage in culture wars. Let's listen to that.
No, you can't be happy when there's literally Nazis standing outside the front gates of the park.
That was horrifying, quite frankly, and it's concerning to me that anyone would encourage a level of intolerance or even hate that, frankly, could even become dangerous action that could be turned into some dangerous act of some sort. We are a preeminent entertainer in the world, and we're proud of our track record there. The notion that Disney is in any way sexualizing children, quite frankly, is preposterous and inaccurate.
Okay, the beginning of that you didn't need to hear. That was based off a news story and some things that happened at one of the parks. But the end part was the important part. He says, hey, Disney is not doing anything towards kids. They're not leaning into the culture wars. They're not engaging in the culture wars. However, I just have to play this so that we don't forget. This was revealed, I believe, by Chris Rufo and one of the people who was in charge of doing a lot of the animation and animated shows. Let's listen to this.
There has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. And so I feel like I felt like it was, maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess something must have happened in the last, they're turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that momentum that I felt, that sense of, I don't have to be afraid to let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud family. But I just was no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
Yeah. So, not so secret gay agenda. There it is. Okay, so now we get to this, and there's some things in it on that side. The movie hasn't even come out yet, right? So this is just based on the trailer. And I know you're saying, well, you can't judge the movie just based on the trailer. Well, maybe, but lately there's so little creativity in movies and shows and things. They basically reveal almost everything in the trailer. Sure, there may be more, but I can pick up pretty much exactly what's going on in this movie, what the whole plot line is, where it's going. I'm not even going to play for you the whole preview. And here's where we take a choose your own adventure. Either now, while you're watching this, either you're going to see the preview right here, or you're going to hear it, or you're not going to see it, because I really don't know if the social media people are going to let me play this, because sometimes when I play Disney things, that's just especially it. They just really don't like me playing those on certain social media. So I'm going to play the preview now, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So you may or may not see it. If you're listening, you'll probably hear it. Here we go.
Once upon a time stood Rosas, a most magical kingdom, founded by a king with the power to grant wishes.
You are their handsomest, most beloved king.
You're right. I am a handsome king.
I'm so nervous, I think I'm going to explode.
My best friend, the king's apprentice.
My mouth drooping? I feel like it's drooping.
Asha, come with me. The wishes of Rosas.
Whoa.
People give their wishes to me, and I grant the wishes I am sure are good for Rosas.
Some of these will never be granted.
Not some, most.
They deserve more than...
I decide
what everyone deserves.
All right, so you may or may not have seen that if you're on the socials. If you did, fantastic. If you can see the plot really clearly what's happening here, right? So there's a girl, her name is Asha. We're going to talk about her in a second. And then there's the king, and he is the king who, so see where this goes and watch the symbolism here. So he's a king, and he receives the wishes of the kingdom and then decides who gets the wishes. Now, if you take away what you just saw in the angry voice, and if you saw it, the angry eyes, when he said, I decide, then you go to this thought of, well, we'll listen to it without the emotion. There is a benefactor king, a good king, who decides which wishes he says yes to and which he says no to, knowing that not every wish should get a yes answer. Does that make you think of anything? Does that make you think of anyone, like maybe God answering your prayers, and sometimes he answers prayers with yes, and sometimes he answers prayers with no, and sometimes it feels like he doesn't even answer prayers. And yet, biblically speaking, God is good, and if he answered yes all the time, it would be chaos, and we'll look at that in a moment. So what happens is this girl, Asha, decides, well, that's not right. And she doesn't say this out loud, as far as I know, but she might, because the movie hasn't come out yet. She's going to fight the patriarchy. She's going to fight the oppression. She's going to fight the dad. She's going to fight the king. And she decides she is going to make a wish and then grant everybody's wishes. So here's part of the song that happens when she does that.
So I look up at the stars to guide me. I wish and throw caution to every warning sign.
Oh, you spoil us with your magic.
I didn't do it.
What?
All right. So again, I clipped that a lot. You can go online and watch the whole thing. It's like 2 minutes and some. I do want to point out though, if you didn't listen to the words of the song, right? So she makes a wish and says, I throw caution to every warning sign and then grant every wish. Does this seem like a good idea? Like, is it a good idea to say, yeah, I've got a bunch of warning signs, like maybe I shouldn't do this, but let's just do it. Let's grant everybody's wish. So Joel Berry of the Babylon Bee said this in a tweet: Disney writers want this to be an allegory for fighting the patriarchy, fighting systemic oppression, living your truth, and raging against God. But they'll have to shoehorn in a transcendent Christian theme in order to make the story work, which of course is right, because you can't have father figures, you can't have any sense of justice at all unless there is a Christian theme, because without Christianity, there is no justice, period. I know you hear about social justice and all these other words plus justice, but anything plus justice is not justice. The only way we really have justice is if we have justice from a moral standard that is outside of yourself. And that has to be based on a foundation of something like a transcendent good God that we have. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense, because if we're just bags of flesh that are here for 40 or 60 or 80 years, and it's survival of the fittest and Darwin, and there's no transcendence and there's no God and there's nothing else, then what does it matter? What does it matter what I do? What does it matter what you do? Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I believe there's a God and that there is morality because of who God is. But I don't understand how you could think there is morality if you don't have a concept of God. Again, why? Why would you have morality? It turns into this weird Machiavellian circumstance, or if you don't like Machiavelli, like Orwell's Animal Farm, where, the animals just take over, or Lord of the Flies. I mean, take your pick of stories. It all ends up the same pretty much every time when we're left to be in charge. Or to be something more recent, like the story we just heard, we end up with modern day pirates off the coast of California. This is where things go when you take charge and you do you and you live your truth. Because after all, who cares if there's no truth, no values, no consequences? Do whatever you want. Unless, of course, you're a German guy trying to raise his kids right and follow God and homeschool, then it's back to the homeland with you. All right, so the thing that you need to consider, and you're like, Matt, stop talking about this Disney thing. You're making too much of it. It doesn't really matter. It's just a movie. Yeah, I get it, but I think it does matter. And I think it matters because this is the way culture is pushing. And you heard the lady who said this is a not-so-secret gay agenda, and we are pushing this, and we're pushing it hard, and we're putting it in wherever we can. This is an intentionally crafted story. Animations take years and years and years. So somebody had the idea for this story, somebody wrote this story down, somebody filmed all this story, did all the animation for the story, they marketed the story, and they said, this is a story that you need to have because you need to know this is the value we hold, and you better hold this value too. I know you're saying that's a big extension, but I'm just telling you, this is in their mind, 100%. This movie plays on the When You Wish Upon a Star theme. So let's read a little bit about it. It's about this girl named Asha. Asha means wish or hope or desire. She is invited to apprentice under a magic king who grants wishes to his people. The king creates order, law, stability, peace, but then Asha learns the king only grants the most important wishes, which seems unfair. Why would an all-powerful king, or substitute God, if you will, who claims to love all his people, withhold his power and mercy from some of his citizens? She wonders, is this even a good king? Again, if you're not seeing parallels to people rebelling against God, I don't know what to tell you. Continuing on in the description, we see snippets of the king's vanity. The people around him adore him, even worship him. He is their father God. But Asha has discovered he's actually bad. He's actually a villain. Instead, Asha flees society, the ordered realm of the god king, and reconnects with Gaia, Mother Earth. Hey, remember that Apple video that I played for you the other day? Again, social media didn't like that one either. So you can listen to that one at churchpublic.com, or you can watch it on Rumble. Rumble did not pull me for that one. So I'll have a link to that on Rumble. You can search Church Public on Rumble, all of those places. Anyway, so she has an ordered realm of the god king. And I would insert the good king, even though they make him out to a villain later, to reconnect with Gaia, Mother Earth, that is a cosmic force that grants her, Asha, the power to become her own goddess with literal star power. And the star is this little, it looks like a Nintendo character. I mean, it looks exactly like a Japanese Nintendo character to me, but whatever. Anyway, so with this power, this is Disney's description, she will return to overthrow the patriarch king and free the people from the shackles of his rules in order to end the oppression and grant everyone's desires. Gosh. This is, I mean, listen, this is so back to Genesis 1 and 2 and 3 and back to the garden. And it's the same, Satan saying, did God really say this? And is God really good? Isn't he just a bad guy? Isn't he just oppressive? Don't you really want to do things your way? You know, don't you just want to live your truth? And you say, Matt, you're just being dramatic. But listen, people, the script made it through years of meetings. People paid to be dramatic through all the layers and everything that was going on. And it's important to understand. And Disney needs to get these ideas of heroism and good and equality and justice. But then you can't say it's based on a good God. It can't be based on a man, because men, as we know, according to the culture, are just definitely bad. So she learns how to grant wishes and she gives everyone their wish. But here's what every Christian knows, every student of history knows. You just can't give everyone their wish. What that turns into is not democracy. It's not social order. It turns into anarchy and chaos. This is just the way it works. What law and order and justice do is restrain the evil, and they order society. And what an ordered society means, and man, people don't like this, but I have to say it. An ordered society means, here it comes, you can't do whatever you want. You just can't. And I know you're like, yeah, but we read in Paul, in Christ you're set free. And so for freedom, we've been set free. Yes, that's true. But he also says anything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And what he means by that is, sure, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but God's kingdom order is still in place. God's laws are actually still in place. You still can't go around murdering people and stealing from people and lying to people and taking their stuff and wanting to take their stuff. Those are all bad things, and they lead to bad outcomes, because even though you have freedom, not everything is beneficial, which means there are still consequences, natural and eternal consequences for everything, which is why we need Jesus, and we can't do it on our own. We're back to Romans 1 and 3 and 5 and 8 and 9, etc. I mean, but we're just at this place where the world is saying, live your truth, do whatever you want, connect with Mother Earth, with Gaia, and then you have the wishes, and you'll be able to give everyone their wish. And it's back to John Lennon's, just imagine if there was no religion and no institutions and no government, and if there was nothing, and then we would just all be happy, because without any of these restrictions, everything is wonderful. But that's not how life works, ever. Look at history. Look at every history ever. When you let people do whatever they want to do with no rules and no consequences, you end up with pirates off the coast of California. Or worse, you end up with this. Now, I'm going to show you a clip from Bruce Almighty, Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty. It's an interesting movie. It's funny. Not entirely theologically right, and that's okay. Morgan Freeman, though, is great to listen to. He's got a great voice. So this, but the theme of this movie is different, because Bruce is just mad because life is not going well, and so he has this idea, I could do things better than God. So God shows up in this movie. I hope I'm not spoiling this. This is like a really old movie at this point. So God shows up and says, fine, I'll give you a chance to do better. So it's not like this new wish movie where Asha runs off and steals the power to give wishes. Bruce Almighty, Jim Carrey's character, he's actually given by God the ability to answer prayers in this movie. And it's hilarious because it just turns into this huge debacle. But then Bruce, exhausted after like 5 minutes of trying to answer prayers, and I think it's not, again, exactly correct. I can completely admit that. But what it does give you a perspective on is you have no idea how many prayers are going through. You have no idea. You only think about yourself. This is just how we are. I only think about myself. You only think about yourself. And you have all these wishes and desires and whatever. And you just think, if all of my wishes were just answered, life would be better. And then if all of everybody's wishes were just answered, life would be better. But the problem is it doesn't work that way. And God, who is good and omnipotent, omnipresent, so he knows everything. He is everywhere, where he has all power, and he's good, says, you can have your prayer answered, and you should not, because your prayer is not a great prayer. In this movie, your wish is not a great wish. And the good father, king, in this movie says, I only give people the answer to their wish that need it. In the same way that God does. Again, I don't want to draw too much of a parallel, but we do need to understand the Christian scriptural perspective that's going on here. So what happens? Bruce Almighty in this movie, which is hilarious, just says he actually ends up doing emails and typing. And so he just hits yes in response to all. Everybody gets their wish. And here's the result, as the movie portrays it, of what happens when everybody gets their wish. And if you're just listening, I mean, it's a riot. Everything's on fire. They're looting all the stores. They're destroying cars. I love this guy. The street preacher says, "Thy king dumb come, D-U-M-B," because he's made the dumbest decision ever to grant everybody their wish. And everything's on fire. And it is just a hot disaster. And then it goes into some other perceptions on God and other things. But I think what they got there is correct. If you just say yes to every prayer and every wish, it's just chaos and anarchy, because that's what it is. Because, look, if you don't even believe me, just think about it this way. Today, in the next 10 minutes, if you got every desire that you wanted and everyone around you also got every desire they wanted, do you think there would be some conflict in who got what? Of course there would, because there's always conflict, because there's overlap, because as I said a moment ago, the thing that people don't like to hear in an order society is you just can't do everything you want. And the reality is you really shouldn't do everything you want. That's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. But this is where we end. And this is where we have that primal question again of who is God really? And is God really good? And we think, well, I can just do a better job. I can do a better job than God. But as we've just seen in the Bruce Almighty movie, Bruce, when given the power to grant prayers as a test, he fails it spectacularly. So he gives the power back to God because, as I say all the time, there is a God and I'm not him. And that's good. And we really should appreciate that, because I don't want to be in charge, because I know I'm a terrible person when it comes down to it. And I am selfish and all of those things. And we all should understand that and understand the pride and the humility and the things that we have and the things that we need. And the more that you read scripture, the more you realize how much you need God. But this is the way we need to handle, I know you say, again, it's just a dumb movie, but this is the way we should handle all of these weird cultural agendas. We should just laugh at them because they think they're so incredible and they're smarter than every person who has ever lived in all of history. And of course, they think that they're smarter than God. And as we see in the Old Testament, even some of the New Testament, those people that believe they're smarter than God, they just don't live happily ever after. Not once. It doesn't happen. But the good news is, hear this, those that God calls to himself, who deny themselves, deny their own selfish desires, who repent, who follow Jesus, actually do live happily ever after for eternity through Christ our Lord. Amen. That'll do it for me today. For Church Public, I'm Matt Odegaard, and as always, I hope that you will keep the faith. As always, I hope that you will keep the faith. If this has been helpful to you, like and subscribe, share, go ahead and send this to somebody. I want people to be able to keep the faith in whatever way they can. We look at current events from a Christian perspective. You can go to churchpublic.com. And if you want to support, churchpublic.com/support.